So I think that I've had a rather unique journey when it comes to the refining of my taste for the type of stories I look for when getting into a new anime or manga. Specifically when it comes to romance anime and manga. For context, I got into anime and manga in about the 2nd or 3rd grade, and this was a kind of weird time to get into anime and manga as the mediums weren't mainstream yet like they are now. With anime and manga not really being popular at the time, getting into a new anime and manga series was a little more difficult than it is now. Now, it's not like I'm speaking of some ancient period in time. I mean, I'm turning 20 this year, so it wasn't that long ago. But I still think that it's a true statement to say that it's a lot easier now that anime and manga are popular for those new to the mediums to kind of bypass all the weird shit and just get to the good stuff, especially with all the solid recommendations people give online. Back then, getting into a new series was a little more trial and error, as you didn't have as many people giving extensive and thorough recommendations for series, especially for specific genres like romance. I was primarily interested in romance anime and manga at the time, and with the very few recommendations I was able to find, especially for series that were accessible to me, I ended up just browsing the internet for whatever series looked interesting, hoping that I would find something good. Now, what exactly is the danger in doing this, you may ask? Well, you see, if you know anything about romance anime and manga, it's a pretty broad genre, and a lot of those older romance series could get pretty messy. So I guess it's more than accurate to say that I went down some pretty deep rabbit holes trying to find romance series to watch as a kid. Going down these rabbit holes, I somehow went from reading Fairy Idol Canon and Big Adventures of Majoko to some of the most toxic and problematic romance stories, and you know what? At the time, I loved it. Not gonna lie, I had the most trashiest taste in romance as a kid. The messier that shit was, the more I loved it. I read Fushigi Yugi and got that little spark of toxicity, and that was it. It just started to get progressively worse from there. For some reason, I just found something so addicting about an absolutely vile and messy romance story that it just set me on the path to discover probably some of the most trash romance series in all of anime and manga. And the thing is, I was actively looking for them. I wanted that angst, I wanted that drama, I ate that shit up. So I guess you can say my whole world changed when I discovered the genre of reverse harem.
Damn, man, it's hot.
Yes, I admit it, I had a reverse harem phase. I mean, it really doesn't get any messier than reverse harem. I wish I could say that my reverse harem phase was brief, but unfortunately that phase lasted for a hot minute. I'm talking like from the ages of like 10 to 12-ish. Is there shame? A little. But you know what? We all got our weak points, and mine just so happened to be that I was a sucker for a story about a bunch of guys fighting for the love of one girl. Now, reverse harem is one of those more niche genres of romance. There honestly isn't that many mangas and animes belonging to this genre out there, but the ones that do exist, yeah, not exactly the best in terms of writing. But once again, mess was right up my alley at that time, so good, bad, I was all for it. When I tell you I was hooked, I mean I completely scoured the internet for whatever reverse harem I could find on a decently safe website to watch. I'm talking Yuta no Prince Sama, Vampire Knight, Oran High School Host Club, Diabolic Lovers, Kamigami no Asobi, The Wallflower, Amnesia, Sain Koko Monogatari, Hanasakuru Seishonen, Kami-sama Kiss, and a whole lot of other random obscure ones that I found along the way on random sites that only had like one episode available to watch. And don't even get me started on reverse harem otome games, like Kissed by the Baddest Bidder. Come on now. So reverse harem was a niche genre where I discovered some pretty weird series, but there was this one particular reverse harem that I ended up coming across that really stood out from the rest. This anime had not one, not two, not three, not even four, but a whole ass 13, well, more like 12, guys fighting for one girl's affection. I mean, in terms of messy romance factor, this anime seemed to have everything. Drama, pining, full-on brawling for the sake of love, hot anime men, multiple declarations of love and attempts at winning over the heroine, and I mean, on the surface, this anime seemed to have all the things that I found entertaining in a messy romance story. Unfortunately, I would come to find out that one thing this anime also had was incest.
I love you. Forever. Of course we love each other. We're family.
That's right, I'm talking about none other than What Are You Doing Step Bro the Anime, Brothers Conflict. don't even know where to start with Brothers Conflict. I'm not sure what words I can use to exactly describe Brothers Conflict, but let me just say that this anime is definitely built different. This has got to be one of the most unhinged and socially unaware animes out there, second only to probably like Diabolic Lovers. The shit that unfolds and is allowed to unfold in this anime leaves you with questions that mostly consist of who the hell wrote this and what the hell were they thinking? Now, when I had first come across this anime and saw the title, I was in denial. I did not want to believe that this was what I thought it was. I thought, no way, it can't be. Although I wish I could say that the possibility of it being what I thought it was would be enough to steer me away from watching it, the curiosity just ate me up inside. I mean, a reverse harem that looked this messy? I just had to watch it. I was incapable of resisting. And so I watched it, and oh god, was there indeed mess. I hate to say it, but I just could not stop watching this anime. It was like an anomaly. I just had to see what was gonna happen next. Did I have thoughts that this anime was trash back then? Yeah, I did. But watching garbage anime was kind of my thing back then. So was I weirded out? Yes. But was I entertained? Unfortunately, also kind of yes. But now that I'm older, I had the idea to rewatch this anime, and with the way I feel after rewatching this, I just feel like I need to cleanse this shit off my spirit, because I just feel way too much conviction for having ever watched this anime. I feel like I would just continue to be plagued by the thought of this anime if I don't get off my chest just how trash it is, so I just feel like I need to let it all out so I could finally find peace in my life. Which finally brings me to the reason that I'm making this video, which is to expose this anime for just how outrageous it is and why we can't just act like it never existed, because it is just objectively bad, even by reverse harem standards. But before I do that, I'm going to give a bit of a rundown of the general plot of Brothers Conflict, in case you aren't familiar with what this anime is and what it's about. So Brothers Conflict originates both from the ultimate game Brothers Conflict and the novel series that exists in addition to the game, both of which I don't know that much about because neither have translated versions. But in the anime of Brothers Conflict, we follow the story of our heroine in this mess, which is a girl named Emma, but literally no one calls her by her real name in this anime, which I think is because of the ultimate game origins. The only name that she is somewhat called consistently by is Chi, by her pet squirrel Julie, which, yeah, this girl is a magical talking pet squirrel that only she could understand for some reason. But anyways, Chi, who is in her final year of high school, has a father named Rintaro, who is a well-known, I think it was, adventurer, whatever that means. I'm telling you that the only thing that this guy needed to be exploring was some parenting classes, because he really needed to step up his game in this anime. The man is like Ghost for the entirety of this shit show. And anyways, her dad is getting married to a widowed woman named Miwa. She's a fashion designer, I think. And she has children from her previous marriage. Sons to be exact. 13 of them to be even more exact. Yep, that's right, she has 13 sons. So for some reason, she is adamant that it is only appropriate to give her dad and his new wife some space so that they could be lovey-dovey in their new marriage and whatnot. And so Chi, her dad, and her soon-to-be stepmom set up an arrangement for Chi to move into the Asahina residence where Miwa's sons live, Chi's new stepbrothers. And this is a little side tangent, but to this day, I am still confused by what exactly is up with the living situation of the Asahina family. I have a really hard time understanding what the structure is that they're living in. Is it a mansion? Because it is way too formal looking to be a mansion. This house has like elevators, like a shit ton of postal mailboxes, apartment style doors, but then there's also like a huge shared living room, kitchen, and bathroom. So what is it? Is it like a whole apartment complex that they own? Because then the question is, who the hell pays for this and how much money does this family have exactly? Anyways, I'm getting off track. And so yeah, Chi moves into the Asahina residence, meets her new stepbrothers, and tries to adapt to this new environment. Now, it's mentioned quite a lot throughout the story that Chi had essentially been on her own most of her life due to her father's work that kept him away from home often. And so gaining a family is something that is really important to Chi. And so throughout the events of the story, Chi's shown trying her best to get along with every one of the brothers in hopes of becoming a true family and gaining the sense of belonging that she has always craved her whole life. And well, that's the general plot of Brothers Conflict. Now, based off that rundown that I just gave you, you may be thinking, well, how can such an endearing premise for a possible found family anime go so wrong? To which I would remind you that this is a romance anime. a reverse harem romance anime with 13 stepbrothers. So, yeah.
Because I am in love with you, not as your stepbrother, but as a man. As my little sister.
We're family.
Shit goes down in this anime, and it is definitely far from the idea of any type of wholesome found family story. Because when I tell you that every single one of these stepbrothers becomes some of the thirstiest motherfuckers to walk this earth once Chi comes into the mix, I mean these brothers go batshit insane as they try to risk it all to date this girl that is literally supposed to be their stepsister. When Renchado and Miwa sent Chi to live with these stepbrothers, they honestly might as well have been sending Chi out onto a war battlefield with just a twig to protect herself, because I tell you, the minute this girl Chi meets these brothers, she becomes straight up prey for these thirsty ass men. Once again, to explain myself or why I even watched this in the first place, I was like 11 at the time, okay? I didn't know what the hell I was getting myself into. I saw reverse harem, I saw mess, and I saw hot anime guys, and I was like, yeah, I'm down. Those prospects were enough to cloud my judgment when deciding to watch this anime. I was not thinking that deeply about it, and I was not expecting it to be as bad as it was. I just wanted the mess, y'all. And once I was watching this garbage, my little toxic kid self just had to know what was gonna happen next. Like I said, this anime is an anomaly. My reverse harem phase led me down some dark paths, and trust me when I say that if I can go back in time and had never watched this anime, I would. I'm sorry, okay? So yeah, the romance aspect of this story and the reason that it is a reverse harem is because the central romance plot is that all 13 of Chi's stepbrothers somehow miraculously all fall in love with Chi and all fight amongst themselves because they want her to love them back. I mean, while we're on this conversation of people with insane riz, I say we throw this girl Chi in the mix because I swear all this girl had to do was like breathe and exist in like the general vicinity of these men, and somehow she has all of them on their knees and risking federal jail time for her. Now, please keep in mind that Chi is still in high school, and the ages of these brothers range from Masayomi, who's the oldest and is 31, all the way down to Wataru, who's the youngest and is like 10. So yeah, there's that to think about while watching this anime.
FBI, open up!
Now, despite how bad that already sounds, trust me that doesn't even scratch the surface of just how bad this anime actually is and how much absurd shit goes on within this 12-episode anime series, because it's a lot. This anime was quite possibly the reason for me slowly starting to transition out of my reverse harem phase. It was that bad. So now, with the stage being set for what this anime exactly is and the type of expectations you should have for it, I wanted to look back on this anime and highlight some of this anime's biggest offenses. Some of them probably being pretty obvious ones. But yeah, I'm gonna break down some of this anime's biggest issues and moments of absolute ridiculousness, just so that you can get a full picture of just how trash this anime actually is, and why I think that this anime existing is an actual crime to society. So, let me explain. Starting off with the romance of this anime. So I think that one of the most obvious problems anyone who's seen this anime can point out is definitely its treatment of romance and what this anime tries to push as romantic onto the viewer. This whole step-sibling romance plotline is honestly so off-putting and bad enough as it is, but this anime just had to pile on the absurdity even more by making pretty much all of these so-called love interests absolute trash. To start off, the age gaps between these brothers and Chi is just criminal. Like I said, we got Masayomi, who's the eldest, who's 31 and a doctor, Ukyo, who's 29 and a lawyer, Kaname, who's 28 and a monk, Hikaru, who's 25 and a novelist. Then there's the triplets, Tsubaki, Azusa, and Natsume, who are all 24. Tsubaki and Azusa are voice actors, while Natsume is a video game developer. Then there's Louis, who's 21 and a hairstylist, Subaru, who's 20 and a university student who plays basketball semi-professionally, Iori, who's 18 and is starting university, I think, Yusuke, who goes to high school with Chi and is 17, just like Chi, Futo, who's 15 and is an idol / high schooler / irritating little shit, but I'll get to that soon, and Wataru, who is an elementary student and is 10. So pretty much almost all of these brothers have an age gap with Chi that would be considered extremely illegal. Like seriously, what a way to set up the love interests of this story. Like, how do you fuck up so bad that jail is a destination awaiting pretty much all of your love interests just by circumstance of the plot you got set up? Like, I know that it's common for otome games to like to have as much variety as possible to appeal to the different people playing the otome game, but come on now, who the hell is asking for the 10-year-old? The age gaps are absolutely ridiculous in this anime, and the whole thing just gives you a really icky feeling while watching this anime because it's just so uncomfortable watching these grown men interacting the way they do with this girl who is in high school. Which then brings me to the way in which romance is shown and displayed in this anime. Oh, it's just bad. It's just so bad. So in terms of how romance is depicted in this anime, it's just in the very first episode that we get a look at this anime's approach to romance. The writers of this anime's approach to romance is pretty much just making you witness the most uncomfortable and unsettling interactions between these brothers in Chi, with the hopes that you'll somehow find any of these highly concerning moments the slightest bit attractive. In the first episode, it's only Chi's very first day in this house, and almost all of these brothers are already shown presenting some pretty sus behavior towards Chi. And under any other circumstances, this behavior and treatment would be seen as a creepy way to treat any girl you just met, let alone your stepsister. But this exact behavior is what this anime expects you to view as romantic and attractive. So in all the weird, uncomfortable moments where all you can think of is, ew, why are you looking at her like that? Ew, why are you talking to her like that?
I'm sorry. But you never know. Maybe I'll do that someday.
And ew, why are you touching her like that? Are all intended to make your heart swoon and root for one of these brothers to be endgame. Jesus, there is not 1 ounce of awareness in this anime. And the two brothers who perfectly exemplify this anime's approach to making you feel charmed in this very first episode are Kaname and Tsubaki. My god, did these two have zero restraint. We got Tsubaki and his sister complex ass coming in with a hug that's way too close for comfort, and Kaname, who multiple times on just the first day is talking all suggestively and also being way too close for comfort with this girl who I will remind you is underage and his stepsister. Like, sir, please unhand the child. You're pushing 30. Throughout this anime, all this gross behavior is just so normalized, and this anime genuinely tries to push onto you that all of this is romantic. And it just gets even worse after the first episode. Taking Tsubaki for example, one of the brothers in this anime who probably had the most so-called romantic interactions with Chi, this guy had absolutely zero chill in this anime. The first kiss that takes place in this anime is between Tsubaki and Chi after the whole entire Azusa and Tsubaki voice acting conflict in I think episode 4, which I'll get into later because boy do I have some issues with the resolution of that whole plot point. But anyways, this first kiss is just a horrendous mess of what the fuck. So with this first kiss, it goes down because Tsubaki was feeling down because of a voice acting role he lost to Azusa, and he was trying to cheer up in order to be happy for Azusa's success. Chi and Tsubaki go on a walk, and Chi tries to cheer up Tsubaki, and it's in the middle of Chi talking with absolutely no consent that this guy Tsubaki just goes in and kisses Chi. I mean, this shit just comes out of nowhere. This whole thing is depicted as being cute and meant to mark Tsubaki's entrance as a proper love interest, with like twinkling star sound effects going on in the background. Like, why is this anime trying to have you root for a crime? All that romance music and twinkling star sound effects don't take away from the fact that this grown man just literally kissed his underage stepsister. This shit doesn't have me swooning, it has me calling the damn cops. And once again, with the way this whole thing goes down with no consent and it's just random as hell, it just makes this gross and uncomfortable interaction even worse because Chi's just shown being entirely confused on what is happening as this man just proceeds to take advantage of her. Throughout this anime, all Tsubaki's so-called displays of affection and love are just him being super forceful with Chi for literally no reason at all. There are honestly no actual redeeming qualities to this man because he's just consistently terrible with the handling of his so-called feelings for Chi, which he shouldn't even have because once again, this girl is both underage and his stepsister. This anime just time and time again makes its love interest look like absolute scum because almost every one of their romantic interactions with Chi are literally just them forcing themselves on her. I mean, there are just so many examples of this with Tsubaki specifically. We got that whole interaction of Chi just trying to put together a photo album of the brothers and Tsubaki coming in to just randomly accuse Chi of treating Azusa's picture like a picture of a boyfriend. Like, wow, the jump to conclusions is strong with this man. And then immediately after, when Chi tries to shut him down, this grown man, once again, to a girl who is supposed to be both underage and his stepsister, is all like, I need you, damn it! Like, bro, chill! And then he proceeds to force himself on her. Like, come on now. This man Tsubaki just acts like a straight up creep who at the same time acts like a complete child, and that's painted as being attractive for his character, but nah, this man just needs to calm the fuck down. This guy practically drove his own damn twin to the grave he was acting out so much. Like, what's supposed to be the appeal here? But if we're gonna talk about concerning behavior that's painted as romantic, then we got to talk about Futo, because this guy is just a straight up criminal, like to the highest degree. All his supposed romantic interactions with Chi are literally just him taking every opportunity to treat this girl Chi like absolute shit, and he just always gets away with it like it's nothing. Like his very first interaction with Chi, which I guess was supposed to be this anime's idea of playful banter, is literally just him insulting her. Like actually full on insulting her. And this girl Chi just stands there and takes it. Like, girl, stand up for yourself. What are you doing? And once again, all of Futo's romantic scenes from here on out just consist of him forcing himself on Chi and full on attacking her. Please tell me what's romantic about this. This guy kidnaps Chi, like full on holds Chi hostage in this anime multiple times. And don't even get me started with that one scene where Futo was literally shown trying to... Honestly, what the fuck? Chi, throughout the majority of these uncomfortable and unsettling situations, is just shown trying her best to keep her cool and worries about offending the brothers if she tries to stand up for herself, and in the very few moments where she is shown to fight back, there are still no consequences for the actions of any of these men, and things just carry on like nothing ever happened. Futo in particular was probably the worst of them all. How he never ended up in jail, I don't know. He was just a different breed of trash, and he just kept on persisting. I mean, this guy was like a roach with how he just kept coming back to wreak havoc in this girl's life. The only times when Futo was on screen that I got excited was during the scenes when Yusuke was about to beat his ass, because I was waiting for it to happen, and I was all for Yusuke taking one for the team. Like, I don't even know what the writers thought the audience would find appealing about this guy Futo as a love interest, when he's just an absolutely shitty person. Like, this guy isn't even anywhere close to being a decent human being. Like, scratch being a love interest, I don't even know how he's supposed to be a believable idol with that absolute garbage personality of his that he doesn't even attempt to hide.
Can you say hi to my mom?
Can you be quiet?
I swear his PR team must be working overtime for his ass. And yeah, the romance is just so creepy and weird at times. Like Kaname, I swear if there's one thing this man does not fear, it's jail, because he had absolutely no chill at all. This man was straight up at Chi's parent-teacher conference, her parent-teacher conference, and was flirting with Chi, right in front of her teacher. Like seriously, how much more of a creep can you possibly be? All of his interactions with Chi were just so weird and creepy. Not once did he hold back on any suggestive remark. This guy just did not care. This anime tried to play him off as one of those flirty and seductive types in romance anime, but it's not giving game. It's giving more like life sentence. I swear it was like Kaname, Tsubaki, and Futo were in active competition to see who could rake up the most charges, because all three of them were just so unhinged. In addition to the romance being very problematic and toxic, another major issue I had with it was how the romance also made absolutely zero sense. All of the romance in this anime is just completely illogical and lacks common sense, because figuring out how point A got to point B in the escalation of these romance moments will have you going in circles until your brain breaks. It makes no sense. Like, for example, please tell me, how the hell did Subaru catch feelings for Chi? Almost every single interaction between these two is like hearing crickets in an empty room and watching paint dry, because I swear these two had the most awkward and dullest interactions anytime they showed up together on screen, and that is with the very middle interactions that they did have. So how is it that Subaru was so down so fast after he like just met this girl? When Subaru asked out Chi, I was like, huh? Because it honestly made no sense with how there was no explanation of how things got to this point. They went from their parents' wedding to Subaru practically begging Chi to be his girlfriend. Like, how did we get here? There was honestly never any rationalizing in the head going on with this man on the ethics of dating a step-sibling, and no context given whatsoever as to why he felt absolutely anything for Chi up to this point. This man was just so down bad for no reason at all. This man was shown shaking, on the verge of popping a damn blood vessel, and dramatically dropping briefcases for reasons of, I don't know, plot. Like, what was even this guy's significance to the story in the first place? This man just popped up on screen every other episode, thirsted over his stepsister, punched something out of anger of not being able to date his stepsister, and then he just dipped at the very end. Like, who even are you? I swear, this man Subaru had zero personality besides playing basketball. Ball is quite literally this man's life. Another example of completely illogical writing with this anime's romance is Natsume and Azusa. Both of these guys were painted as the more logical and level-headed ones out of the other brothers, being able to see reason in situations, but once the plot called for more spice, these two were shown to just completely lose every brain cell that they had and contradict stuff that they had said or done in just the previous episode. Azusa multiple times was the one to call out Tsubaki for acting inappropriate with Chi, and was the one to point out the fact that Tsubaki shouldn't act the way he does towards Chi, who is his family. Yet when the plot called for him to be a love interest, he just did a complete 180 and lost all sense of reason that he had, like in just the episode prior. When Azusa asked Chi how she felt about Tsubaki, Chi said that she loved Tsubaki as a brother. Keyword here is brother, and yet somehow this just completely went over Azusa's head, and he was all like, well, yeah, but what about as a man? Like, what do you mean? How is he shown not to comprehend the inappropriate nature of dating a step-sibling when he was shown to have a pretty strong grasp on it just the previous episode?
Yeah, I act weird. Because when you treat her like this, I honestly don't know what to say. Stop being a jerk and just think. Think about how you might be making her feel. She's your family. I'm jealous because I am in love with you. Not as your stepbrother, but as a man.
BFFR. What did that spell? B fucking for real.
Like, what the hell happened to all the stuff you were talking about earlier, Azusa? And now Natsume. Once again, the escalation to romance made absolutely zero sense in the context that it took place. This girl Chi was over here breaking down in front of Natsume over being adopted and not feeling wanted by family, and this man then goes in for a kiss, and follows up said kiss by saying, "You're an important member of this family." Like, what? How the hell do you then follow up that statement with a full-blown confession of love? Like, be so for real right now. It makes no sense. And then in the car ride with Hikaru, when Hikaru brings up the idea of something going on between Natsume and Chi, Natsume's all like, what do you mean? We're family. Like, bro, I know you did not just fucking say that. These triplets really were just walking contradictions. But at the end of the day, I guess one thing they do stay true to is the saying of twins doing everything together.
2020 vision, city girls winning, copping us bullshit. Bitch, we winning!
Speaking of illogical and messed up romance, can we take the time to point out the fact that in this series, you have the option to date the fucking rodent? In the video game of Brothers Conflict, you have the option to date Julie, and oh my god, this is next level absurdity. So apparently magic comes into play in Julie's route. The spirit of Chi's dad somehow turns Julie into a human so that he can be with Chi, and what? Julie and Chi end up becoming a couple, but the magic is like some Cinderella type spell, so it can only last for a little while, and his route ends with the magic eventually running out and Julie essentially dies because he disappears into nothingness. Chi supposedly moves on, but wow, this series is something else. So I guess in the world of Brothers Conflict, it's either incest or the squirrel. You pick your poison. I didn't even know about his route until researching for this video. If that isn't enough proof of how absolutely absurd the romance in this anime is, then I don't know what is. Trying to comprehend the romance in this anime will just have you ripping your hair out until you're bald, because there is nothing to comprehend. It's just trash. I let a lot of this stuff go over my head when I watched it as a kid, because I was all about mess and I just had hot anime men on the brain, but watching this now that I'm older, I was just either disgusted or confused with what was going on screen pretty much the whole time. I mean, we just gotta call these romance scenes for what they really are, which are just straight up crimes. Honestly, this anime, as well as like Diabolic Lovers, just really get a kick out of watching their heroines suffer, because I swear, both are just a never-ending competition between their so-called love interests to see who could commit the most crimes against their naive MCs. Like, in what way did the writers of this think that any of this was okay? Like, Chi is just a straight-up victim to these predator brothers, and the way that it's romanticized with zero consequences for these brothers is honestly so disgusting. 11-year-old me, are you good? Now I'm gonna address the issue that this anime takes a hard swerve to anytime it's brought up, and that's this anime's handling of the concept of family. Because honestly, what the hell is this? The fact that this anime's main plot is about romance between step-siblings just shows how much this anime does not take the concept of family seriously, and you'd figure that with that knowledge that this anime wouldn't even try to take itself seriously when discussing such issues, but if you could believe it, this anime actually has the audacity to do just that. So let's just address the elephant in the room here. Incest. Yep, this anime certainly has a lot of that. This topic is something that this anime just takes way too lightly. With the way this whole issue of being step-siblings is treated more as a minor inconvenience rather than the actual what the fuck situation that it is, you gotta ask, why did the writers even make that the basis of the plot in the first place? What did they think, that they were being different? That they were being quirky? Like, out of all the other storylines you could have come up with, why did it have to be one just so downright criminal? Like, I'm sure that there were a number of other ways you could have gone about standing out from other reverse harems that were not this. But yeah, this whole step-sibling plot point is treated as such a non-issue in this anime. It's never shown to have any impact on the way any of these brothers treat this girl, because absolutely none of them are shown to consider the ethics of what they're trying to pursue with this girl, who is on document their family. Not even incest is enough to stop the thirst of these brothers. And in the very few moments that this issue is brought up, it's done in the most nonsensical and contradicting way ever. And it's like, if you know it's bad, then why the hell are you doing it?
No, obviously nothing happened. We're family after all.
BFFR. What did that spell? B fucking for real.
But you know what's quite possibly worse than the main incest plotline of this anime? It's the fact that there is another sub-incest plotline in this anime, and it's the incestuous undertones of Tsubaki and Azusa's relationship. I mean, the anime didn't even wait to drop this bomb. It's literally shoved in your face in episode 1. Seriously though, why are so many shoujo romance series plagued by this trope? But I mean, I guess we learned some valuable piece of information from this plot point, and that's that despite being dense and naive, at least this girl Chi's not homophobic, because she was down for that shit like it was nothing. Our girl Chi really said gay rights with absolute swiftness and no regrets whatsoever. I mean, can we just take a moment to talk about how Tsubaki specifically is a character that's way too comfortable with the concept of incest? Like, according to what I've read online about other Brothers Conflict content, this man Tsubaki is said to have a whole collection of stuff catering to those with sister complexes. Which, ew? He's consistently weird about his relationships with Azusa, with Chi, and my god. In Masayomi's route, Chi gets pregnant at the end, and Tsubaki just casually brings up the idea of getting with Masayomi and Chi's kid if it turns out to be a girl, in order to get the next best thing to Chi. Okay, Jacob. I mean, even Azusa was like, what the fuck? This man is just all sorts of messed up. So yeah, with the very uncomfortably comfortable attitude that this anime has towards the concept of incest, you'd figure that that would be more than enough outrage for this anime to cause, but nope, it gets even worse than that. This anime just takes the absurdity up to 11, with one of its major conflicts being one of the most contradictory and nonsense plot points ever that really show that this anime and whoever wrote it clearly has no idea what the concept of family means and what they want to say about it. The whole ordeal of this plot point just makes absolutely no sense when you tie it back to everything that has been shown in this anime up to the point that this conflict is brought up. And the particular plot point that I'm talking about is the whole Chi adoption conflict that comes up in episode 9. So to give some context, episode 9 starts off with Chi receiving a copy of her family registry, which is something she needed in order to get a passport to go on vacation overseas. I'm not familiar with what a family registry exactly is, but I think that it's a type of document that has all of your family history and familial relationships printed on it. So anyways, on this document, Chi finds out that Rentaro is actually not her biological father and that she was adopted, and naturally this comes as a shock to Chi because she was never made aware of this fact. The episode then follows Chi running away from home, which, Chi, I just gotta say, you should have done that a lot sooner. And anyways, she runs away feeling all confused and hurt by what she's found out. Chi is eventually found by Natsumi, and she ends up spending the night at his apartment. Chi tells Natsumi about how the whole adoption situation has her feeling like an unwanted person, her reasons being that 1, possibly her biological parents gave her up because they thought that she was an inconvenience, and 2, her adopted father Rentaro up to this point has not come to see her or spend any time with her since his marriage to Miwa. Which, this is probably the only time that this anime ever points out the absolute shit parenting skills of Rentaro, because yeah, this guy sucks at being a dad. Throughout this anime, he's literally nowhere to be found. Anyways, when Chi starts to get upset and wants to leave, that whole kiss thing with Natsumi happens where he confesses his love to her, but then talks about her being an important member of the family. Just makes no sense at all, like I said earlier. but that ends up prompting Chi to want to stay. We get some fan service of Natsume's very defined, rock-hard abs, which then eventually ends up leading us to the main problem I have with this episode, and it's the whole talk about family, and that happens after Louis shows up and takes Chi out boating. So during this little boating scene, we learn that Louis is actually adopted as well. Miwa's family had adopted Louis when he was very young, and apparently only up to the triplets know that Louis is adopted. And so what happens with this reveal is that Louis uses his own personal experience of being adopted as an opportunity to have a heart-to-heart with Chi, and tell her that sometimes blood has nothing to do with who you decide to call family. Louis goes on to explain that from his own personal experience, he has learned that despite not being able to relate to the other brothers in a biological sense, the love that he has for them and the way that they accept him make their bond together what truly matters and what makes him view them as his true family despite not being biologically related to them. And so once we get to the end of this episode, this whole conflict of Chi feeling unwanted is resolved as she is shown adopting the mindset that sometimes blood really isn't what matters. It's more about the way you care about those that you decide to consider family and the way that you decide to be there for them. At the end of the episode, we also get Julie turning into a human for some reason to tell Chi about how her parents had actually died and how they had actually not given her up. And Rentaro messages Chi, one of the very few times he ever communicates with her, to send her a picture of her deceased parents. But anyways, that's besides the point. The whole point of this episode is to drive home the concept of found family, and how blood really doesn't matter in some cases because family is what you make of it. And now look, although this may be a good message in theory about the concept of family, in the context of this anime, this whole thing literally makes no sense. Because if the whole message that you're trying to leave the audience with is the idea of found family and, oh, maybe family is more about the people we find along the way and all that stuff, then what the hell is the whole plot of this anime, for fuck's sake? This anime really thought that it could get away with this whole sentimental moment of the concept of found family when literally this anime's whole main plot is the biggest contradiction to this concept because literally no one, and I mean not one of these brothers from day one, ever treated Chi as family. Throughout this whole thing, Chi is shown trying her best to be seen as a proper member of this family, and at every single turn, this wish of hers is trampled on as these brothers keep on pushing these ideas of romance onto Chi, and the writers are trying to get the audience to think that, well, this technically isn't as bad as it looks because technically they aren't biologically related to her, so, like, which is it? What's the message of this anime? Is it that family is what you make of it and blood doesn't matter? Or is it that it's technically okay to try and get with your stepsister because you aren't blood related? I don't understand. And what's even worse about this whole Chi adoption plot point that makes this whole message even more confusing is that it's hard to tell if this plot point was used as a way to drill down even further this idea of found family and blended family, or if it was just used as a means to further separate Chi and the brothers from further familial relation so that the brothers pursuing Chi doesn't look as bad as it does because of the wide gap existing between them that would prohibit them from some as looking truly related and truly family. Because it's all that's shown in this anime of these absolutely disgusting brothers, it really seems like it's the latter. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. This has been years of build-up and I just had to release it. So yeah, safe to say that this plot point really angered me. Not only was I already cringing while rewatching all of this toxic stuff that I used to find entertaining as a kid, but once this whole plot point came up, I just sat there absolutely infuriated and in total disbelief that this anime really tried to pull an Uno reverse on its own plot. This anime really is just the absolute worst. The message of family in this anime is just completely nonsensical and only comes up in the brief moments when this anime wants to forget that literally its whole plot is about a bunch of brothers trying to get with their stepsister. Alright, so another major bone I have to pick with this anime is this anime's absolute trash writing, like as a whole. I mean, it's not like you could really expect much from the writing in the first place. Like, after all, this is literally an anime based on an otome game about a bunch of guys trying to romance their stepsister. Reverse harems aren't really made to be taken seriously and are most times just very messy, which is why I was so addicted to them as a kid. But the writing in this anime is just exceptionally bad, because none of the writing in this makes any sense at all, and all of the so-called conflicts that happen throughout the show serve absolutely no purpose to the plot of the story, or have any real payoff in the end. So let me just say right now that this anime has absolutely no real plot at all. Which, I mean, if you're looking from an otome game point of view, I guess the different routes would be the plot of the story, so I guess they weren't working with much to begin with. But I swear, it's like these writers didn't even attempt to make any plot point actually have any significance, because honestly, nothing that's ever brought up in this anime that causes a temporary conflict is shown to really matter or drive the story further in any way. Let's take a look at one of the series' first conflicts, for example, and that's the Tsubaki and Azusa voice acting role conflict in episode 4. I told you I would get back to it. So this whole entire conflict between Azusa and Tsubaki in episode 4 starts because the two were both auditioning for this one anime reboot, and the anime reboot is of an older anime that Tsubaki really loved, and it's what made him want to be a voice actor. The issue that ends up coming up in this conflict is that Azusa ends up landing the role that Tsubaki wanted, and once again there's all these weird undertones in their relationship, so the whole thing is like very dramatic. Tsubaki ends up avoiding Azusa throughout the episode, and the two struggle to reconnect. Throughout this conflict, Azusa is shown wanting to turn down the role for the sake of Tsubaki's happiness. These two have like a really unhealthy kind of codependent relationship with each other, so it's like they literally can't do anything without the other's approval. And this is especially the case with Azusa. Azusa would pretty much prefer to live in Tsubaki's shadow his whole life if it means they get to be together. So yeah, it's a very unhealthy attachment because Azusa honestly has no desire to live any sort of an independent life from Tsubaki. I mean, it's even mentioned that the sole reason that Azusa even got into voice acting was because Tsubaki wanted to do it. Like, this guy really does be playing games with his life. He's just completely up Tsubaki's ass and just refuses to get out. So in not caring about being independent, Azusa is shown to not give a damn about the idea of advancing his own career, and he's just really bitchy to Chi when she tries to convince him to strive for independence and think about his own future. Chi and Azusa almost end up in a full-on argument because of this whole thing, but who comes in to calm down Azusa and save the day? Of course, it's Tsubaki. Tsubaki comes in and tells Azusa that he agrees that Azusa should take the role to advance his own career, and somehow, miraculously, Azusa is shown to see a reason and does a full 180, and the conflict ends with him deciding to take on the role in the end. So now tell me, what's the real point of this whole conflict? Because I honestly don't see any. If this whole conflict was meant to act as a whole character development moment for the twins, then it kind of failed pretty badly in my opinion. You see, because while I can possibly see some development on Tsubaki's end because he was able to overcome his feelings of disappointment in order to be happy for Azusa's success, where the hell was Azusa's development in all of this? Like, Azusa was firm in wanting to turn down the role and did not give a fuck about the idea of advancing his own career because all he cared about was being close to Tsubaki, showing clear signs of codependency because this man is literally incapable of doing anything without Tsubaki's okay. And while Azusa eventually does take on the role in the end to advance his own career, why did he do it? Because Tsubaki told him to. This man Azusa honestly did not give a shit when it was Chi telling him to be independent, yet when it was Tsubaki, his attitude just completely shifted and this man took on the role like so damn quick. So tell me, what was the real significance of this plot point and what did it actually accomplish? It would have been an entirely different story if Azusa came to the decision to take on the role for the sake of his own career on his own, but the fact being that the sole motivation for Azusa taking on the role was Tsubaki telling him to do it just makes this whole thing continue the cycle of Azusa just doing whatever Tsubaki tells him to, because once again, the only thing that we are shown influencing his decision to take on the role is because Tsubaki pushed him to do it. This whole conflict ends with absolutely no development on Azusa's end, no signs of him developing any strive for independence in his career, life, or anything, and then in the end, Tsubaki ends up taking on the role from him anyway, so tell me, what did this conflict really accomplish? Because in my eyes, it accomplished absolutely nothing. So yeah, with this being one of the first major conflicts of this anime, we already see that this anime does not know how to write a good payoff to an established storyline, making this anime just so outstandingly bad because the plot really is nothing other than the consistent theme of these brothers thirsting for their stepsister. I mean, let's just look at some other examples of this bad writing littered throughout this anime. We got the Chi getting into college plot point. This plot point has zero significance or impact on the greater narrative or theme of the story. Chi wants to go to Subaru's university because why? I don't know. Once again, plot. I mean, we don't even find out what Chi wants to study or like any type of goals she has or aspirations career-wise, so what is there even to root for? Throughout the whole story, this whole college plot point is never expanded upon in a meaningful way to make you actually care about this motivation of Chi, so what's even the point of it? Another pointless conflict is the whole Subaru basketball thing. Before Chi came to live with the brothers, Subaru was said to be falling behind in his basketball games. Natsume even sent Subaru a disappointed father message on his birthday to confirm this plot point. Yet somehow, miraculously, this conflict is shown to be entirely resolved on the day that Subaru asks out Chi, because as Subaru himself states it, Chi is the reason that he was able to get better at basketball. How she managed to do that is literally never explained. Up to this point in the anime, Chi is never shown to say or do anything that would meaningfully impact any of these brothers, especially Subaru, so how does she manage to resolve his basketball problem? God knows. I guess the power of the sister complex just really has strong influence over these men. I mean, not even Subaru leaving had any real fleshed out explanation. He just decided to dip after getting Natsume's approval, saying he needed to train, like, okay. I guess his anime protagonist training arc got triggered or something. Off to go kick it with the Kuroko no Basket guys, I guess. I mean, there was even like sad-ass music playing in the background with all these melancholy lyrics popping up on screen, but it's like, why should I even care? I honestly don't know anything about this guy to actually care about him leaving. Like, fuck him. I'm glad he's gone. One less brother to worry about. But of all these bad writing offenses, the biggest one has to be the way this anime takes this trash writing all the way to the end and have it encompass the entirety of this anime's last episode. So episode 12, right? The last episode. All the absolute pain-inducing plot points and conflicts that you witness throughout this anime are all meant to finally meet their resolution in this final episode. And you know what happens in this last episode? Nothing. Nothing fucking happens. My god, this has got to be one of the most pointless finales ever, because I am being so serious when I say that literally nothing happens. So in the final episode, we get like zero resolution to any plot points or character arcs. Like a whole bunch of previously established plot points aren't even properly addressed in this last episode. Once again, everything is just magically resolved. As for other characters that I guess just weren't important to the writers, yeah, they're just given the chopping block because I guess the writers just really couldn't be bothered to write anything for them in the last episode. But what truly makes this finale the most anticlimactic and upsetting ending ever is that all these gross brothers undergo like zero development and change, as they're all shown continuing to just be absolute creeps up until the very last minute of this anime. Chi in this last episode is shown turning down all of the brothers and tells them all pretty clearly that she isn't down with their pursuit of her and all she wants is to be a family. And yet this wish of hers is shown to have absolutely zero impact on these brothers and the way that they view and treat her. Despite Chi verbally saying that all she wants is to be a family, these brothers are shown learning absolutely nothing and continue to just completely ignore her wishes, as it's all left open-ended with all of the brothers declaring to Chi and to each other that they will continue to try and win Chi over. Like, literally nothing changes. So all you're left with is this idea of a never-ending purgatory of these brothers continuing to be creepy towards this girl, as all she continues to want to do is be a family with them. I literally hate it here. So in the end, nothing is resolved, the brothers don't learn anything in the end, none of the characters are shown to have any kind of meaningful development. I mean, the majority of them are just written off. The whole message of family once again goes nowhere because clearly these brothers still don't care about that in the end. So yeah, it was all pretty pointless because nothing went anywhere in the end and nothing was learned by any of these characters. To be honest, I think that the only ending that would satisfy me is if this anime ended with all the brothers going to jail, because that's what I was really waiting to see. But unfortunately, I guess that never happens because instead, we got the 3 OVAs. Yeah, so believe it or not, there's actually 3 OVAs to this anime. After having the most anticlimactic but at the same time low-key horrifying ending with the way things were left open-ended, this series decided that it needed 3 extra installments to this shitshow of a story. That last episode had no actual impactful character development, no change in the dynamic of any of these characters, the brothers are still creeps, like nothing happened. And these 3 OVAs pretty much just follow the same thing. Like the majority of this anime, they have no real plot at all and are just there for fan service. Like there honestly isn't that much to say about them. There's the Genie Bottle OVA, the Christmas OVA, and the Valentine's Day OVA. For the Christmas and Valentine's Day OVAs, we get a new opening and ending song, so that's interesting. All 3 of them just kind of have the same elements of the main anime, just a lot of awfully placed fan service, more moments with the brothers just being absolutely thirsty for Chi and just further highlighting the urgent need for all of them to be locked up, but in the case of these OVAs, especially Ukyo and Futo. Yeah, so not much to look forward to with these OVAs, besides just more absurdity.
This is my basketball of chocolate love, and I'm gonna shoot it on your face.
What in fuck's name are you doing?
These OVAs, like I said, are just for fan service, in case you just wanted to see more of these brothers for some reason. Which normally in the case of other animes I would have no issue with, as OVAs usually are just random side stories, but this anime is just terrible, so I feel like being extra nitpicky towards it. So yeah, this anime is just really bad. There's just so many issues with this anime that highlight a lot of what's wrong with reverse harem animes and why so many of them are just so awful. Reverse harem really is just one of those genres that you can't take seriously. A lot of it is just blatant fan service, and it's pretty rare to find one with even semi-decent writing because most just care about showing off their hot male love interest because that's kind of all they really expect you to look out for. It's even more rare to find one where the heroine actually has a personality or shows any real individual character trait because they're all just bland self-inserts that translate horribly onto screen from their otome games. Well, I'm talking about the ones that do originate from otome games. And yeah, they're just always so uninteresting and indecisive. I think that's why I eventually grew out of my reverse harem phase because a lot of them are honestly just the same thing, just in different fonts. Just either super problematic or just plain boring. Once again, I just wanted to watch trashy mess back then because that's what entertained me. And yeah, I guess you could say I got way more than what I was expecting with this anime. This anime was just a different level of mess. I gotta say though, I must have really upped my taste in romance anime because rewatching this anime was hell, I tell you. Especially because I watched it in the English dub. The English dub was really something else. The English dub made it better but yet worse at the same time. The line delivery, atrocious. It was just so bad. But the little sassy remarks that were thrown in here and there, I'm telling you, that's the only thing that broke the tension from all the discomfort I had. There was like that one line where Julie said something about Subaru that was like, well, I bet that one has ADHD. I'm telling you, that shit took me out. But yeah, I still can't believe that I found this stuff entertaining as a kid. Young me needed help for real. Once again, that whole found family plot point just really pissed me off because obviously this anime has no idea what it's trying to communicate about family and the whole thing is just one big joke. Like, how are you gonna have the message that found family is important when your whole anime is literally about a bunch of guys trying to get with their stepsister? Make it make sense. And in addition, how can this anime have the audacity to speak about family when it has parents that are this trash? Like, seriously, where the hell are these bitches for the majority of this anime? They just sent this girl Chi into a den of wolves with like no checking at all. And the mom in this anime, my god, Miwa, please woman, come get your sons. I mean, seriously, woman, at least 5 out of the 13 are on the path of catching federal cases and you're over there drinking martinis in the Bahamas. Like, be a parent, or at least check in every once in a while. I don't know, maybe send them a text like, oh hi, just checking in. By the way, don't try to smash your stepsister. Like, it's a simple sequence of button presses, girl. But you know what? Who am I kidding? Because this bitch is weird too, and you wanna know why? Because this woman is down with what is going on between she and her sons. Apparently in the Otome game, and I don't know if this is the same for the novel because I was only able to find some blog reviews for the game, but in the game, during the whole wedding event, the part that wasn't animated was the fact that Miwa was more than okay with there being romance between her sons and Chi. She even encouraged it. She was all like, well, if you like one of my sons, let me know. Here, I'll give you the bouquet to make sure you're the next bride. Like, seriously, what the fuck? Does nobody in this series care about the ethics of dating someone who legally you are related to? God forbid things hypothetically got to that point, that would be awkward as hell to explain, because it's gonna be on file, is it not? The fact that you're step-siblings? I already know that that conversation is probably gonna start with, well, technically. It's just so fucked up and weird. But on a more serious note though, I know that through the majority of this video I've just been having like a less serious attitude because a lot of the content in this anime is just awkward and weird to talk about, and I've just been going on a rant. But when rewatching this anime, the portrayal of romance was extremely disturbing. There was just so much romanticization going on in this anime when it came to the brothers' problematic treatment of Chi that it's honestly just so disgusting. There was just so much ignorance in the writing of this anime when it came to these supposed romance scenes, because in the many scenes where Chi is essentially experiencing these brothers like assault her, it's all played up to be romantic with fucking romance music playing in the background, just completely out of touch and ridiculous. Like I mentioned earlier in the video how Diabolic Lovers does a similar thing with the whole making the MC suffer through a number of unconsensual advances for the sake of what I guess would be the writer's idea of what would be appealing and tantalizing to the audience. It all just really shows the absolutely messed up outlook that these writers have on what should be seen as romantic and what the audience should get a kick out of. The whole thing is just really gross. And it was the way that they write the MCs just being fine with this behavior and there never being any consequences for the male character's actions. It's just really sick how all of this is being portrayed as normal behavior, and even more so that it is being portrayed as romantic. And I guess that this is just a major problem with a lot of romance anime in general, like not just Brothers Conflict. When I really think about it, there are a lot of similar instances of this issue, especially in a lot of older romance anime. It's honestly really exhausting how the bar is so low in so many romance anime, and these writers just really needed to step up their game because it's not cute, it's not hot, it's just completely reckless and ignorant to glamorize such behavior in a romance anime, especially when a lot of these series' targeted audiences are young girls. And yeah, that's Brothers Conflict, I guess. Now at the end of the day, this video is just for fun. I just really needed to talk about how bad this anime is because it's honestly insane that this shit ever even existed in the first place. But hey, I think that we can all agree though that despite this anime being absolute shit, those opening and ending songs, those are straight up bops. I'm not even gonna lie. My sister. I'll admit it, it's catchy. So reverse harem. It really was quite the era in my childhood when I was all about it because I ventured onto some really weird paths in my desperation to find it. To any parents watching this, please tell your kids you love them at least once a day, or else they might just end up getting tangled up in some weird shit like Brothers Conflict. The path of degeneracy starts here. So to conclude this video. Yeah, this anime is trash. Bye!